So talk to me about this book, dude. It's awesome.
Thanks, man.
It's fantastic.
Thanks, dude.
I was hoping it was going to be terrible, and it's not. It's really good, man. It's frustratingly good.
That's funny.
Tell me about it. How'd it come about?
It came about, I never thought, John, I'd ever write a book.
Of course,
ever.
yeah.
I just never, it was never on my bingo card. And when I was posting my content, the stuff on Instagram, I would just have these comments, if you need to write a book, please write a book. I go, well, I guess I need to write a book. So I Googled, how do you write a book?
Yeah.
I mean, so I've been through that whole process. And the team that's publishing it said, I think you really have something to say. And I said, well, okay, we'll figure it out. So what this book does is it distills really my framework for how I communicate.
Yeah.
And my prayer is that when they read this, they really don't need me anymore. Like there's
Gotcha.
there's the framework. The framework is that when you speak, when you need to say what you need to say, you're going to say it with control. You're going to say it with confidence. You're going to say it to connect. And those three really are your foundation for almost any conversation. You can start making your own Jefferson Fisher communication videos. And the whole premise is that you can change everything in your life by changing the next conversation. I know that it doesn't matter what I said in the last one. I can change everything with simply what I say next.
Yeah. So control, connect, and confidence.
Yeah.
You launch into this thing, and I don't want to give away too much. You launch into this book with when I turned the page, I started laughing. And I was like, well, there's 95% of my life.
Yeah.
And it is, don't try to win the argument. Don't try to win connection.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So the whole
that's my whole life.
That's funny.
With my dog, I'm trying to win. With my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Help me, brother. Help me, dude.
Yeah. The whole premise of the book is to never win an argument. We have so many blogs and there's other books out there of how to win every argument. I just think it's snake oil. It's empty. It's not going to get you anywhere, because when you win, you lose a lot more. You lose their respect. You lose the relationship. Mm-hmm. What did you win? I mean, okay, you and I are in an argument, and I send that zinger that's going to hurt and burn in your eyes, and you walk off, and I won. Great. Now what?
It's like the golf clap.
Exactly.
Like, congrats, bro.
Yeah.
Right.
You got it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
What did you win? Congrats. You won their contempt. You won the awkward silence now as you pass each other down the hall. You still have to probably work with this person. You probably still have to live
You're married
with
to
this
them.
person. Exactly.
Right.
And all you've won now is to be first up to apologize.
Yeah,
That's what you've won. Congrats. Congrats. Yeah. I just enjoy that trophy. And so the whole premise is to never win an argument, because you'll start to lose the relationship. And what you need to do is stop seeing arguments as something to win and as knots to unravel. When you can start, instead of pulling your way or my way, and starting to go, help me see the knot, begin to unravel them, meaning having something to learn rather than something to prove, your life is going to be a whole lot better.
That feels like it takes an astonishing amount of inner confidence.
Yeah.
To be able to exit a conversation.
Right.
When you know the person wasn't right. When you know the person, I remember the first time I call them mini depositions. It was student conduct matters, but their room is surrounded by attorneys, right?
Right.
And so I'm not technically getting deposed, but you're getting deposed.
You are.
And I remember it was a mutual colleague of ours, Rob, being like, hey, stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop. And it was like, and it was like, almost like be confident.
Right.
Like, just say what you need to say, be quiet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I realized my need to keep talking was because I wasn't super, super certain about what I was saying.
Right.
But when I think about that with my spouse,
Mm-hmm.
when I think about that with my kids, when I think about that with my kid's teacher, where do we get that inner confidence?
Yeah.
Because I think you have to have that to be able to say, I don't have to win this thing.
Yeah. That's what, and it's a logical question, because, and it's a natural, everybody's got this, that's why rule two is say it with confidence.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the more words you give, the less you say. Like,
yes.
The longer it takes you to tell the truth, the more it sounds like a lie.
Yes.
You know, if you really know a topic, you don't have to explain a whole lot. So confidence is very quiet. Insecurities are very loud. Like, you've ever been at a meeting and it's the person who typically has the most to say, has to have you know what, I'd like to give my take, and they always have to give something in it, who knows the least about it.
Yes.
the least in touch with what's going on in that company or that culture. Whereas the leader is typically very quiet.
Yeah.
They know they don't have to say anything. Confident people know that they don't have to say anything if they don't want to. Insecure people have to say everything. They need to name drop. They need to make you know how smart I am, how many people I know, how many people have been on my show.
Right.
You know, it's the names that they'll just like to drop just so that you know. It's really that insecurity that's talking at the baseline.
I remember this is right when I was starting this new weird world that we're in.
It is weird.
And I saw an interview with Jocko.
Oh, nice.
And the interviewer was like, all right, so somebody steps to you and your wife on the streets in San Diego. Like, what do you do? And I remember him just quietly, well, I'd probably just grab her hand and walk across the street and get on that sidewalk. And I remember, I'm paraphrasing it, but he said, but what about, like, you got to defend her honor? And he said with a smile, if it takes me beating up a vagrant on the side of the street, like to show my wife I honor her, I have failed her in every way.
Oh, that's so
but
good.
It was like that. I remember going, oh, that's tough. That's tough.
That's confidence.
And then he went on to say, there's a handful of men on earth that can defeat me in hand. Right? Like, he's like, I can, but the flex is.
Right.
And I guess.
But so he knew he had that power, though.
And that gives you the power to walk away.
Yeah.
Are there situations where I'm trying to think of something outside of safety when I've got to dig my heels in? Is that ever a worthy move?
When you need to stand your ground?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but the whole thing of standing your ground, standing up for yourself is asking the question, is this person worth getting out of your chair for?
So it's just limiting the number of hills you're going to die on.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I grew with my dad going, don't make that your Alamo. Is that going to be your Alamo?
Yeah.
Like, is this really?
Yeah.
Is this really? I mean, that would be his thing.
Huh.
I'd come to him with a problem. He'd go, okay, so? And I go, but you don't understand.
Yeah.
This is happening. This is happening. Go, so?
Yeah.
I mean, and eventually water me down to where you're at. I don't know why I'm making a big deal about it. Yeah. And so it's a mindset of the confidence of knowing I don't have to act. I don't have to move. It's typically the most powerful people say very little. It's the little dog that yips the most.
It just runs and runs and runs.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Here's something else I took away from this book that was pretty heavy.
Thanks for reading it, by the way.
No, man, it's
Thanks,
outstanding. Dude. It's frustratingly good because I can't write that good. I want to talk about, it's kind of I'm going to bridge the gap between that question and the next one.
Okay.
How do we try not to win everything in a world that's always competing with us? Because I think the temptation is just, I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Yeah.
How do I stay present at a table? And you do this for a living. How do you stay present at a table, unhooked from every other emotionally reactive person?
You have to add a lot of silence. So when you can add distance between what somebody has said and how you respond, every time it gives you a lot more control, and especially the perception of control. So let's say you and I are having it out, and all of a sudden you just throw the worst insult ever. And I don't say anything back.
It's the worst, man. It's the worst.
I mean, like,
it's like hitting somebody and they just look at you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Will Smith and Chris Rock. He hits him and he just looked at him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's bad. It looks bad.
It
right?
Still looks bad.
It does, but it will reverberate.
Forever.
Right?
Yeah. And so when somebody walks himself out on a plank and you just let them hang there, I mean, that's where you really have your sense of your power move of using silence, because they know that they walked off on that ledge. So when you say unplug, it's really the concept of knowing the power of the pause, knowing that I don't have to say anything. Yeah, you can take your ball and go home, but it's more of the basis of I just don't have to move because I'm confident in what I know and what I have to say. Same thing we were talking about gaslighters. Yeah. That idea of when you're confident, I see things differently. Now, you can disagree with me. That's fine. It's okay to disagree. And I mean, now you're cool. Yeah. Now you're cool hand Luke. Otherwise, when you're having to go, no, that's not true. And you're bouncing every which way. You're getting heightened. You're yelling. Now you're saying, I'm grasping for control. One with the pause says, No, I'm in control. Much different feeling, much different vibe.
So I guess the next evolution of that question is, talk to me about defensiveness.
Yeah.
And I guess what that communicates.
Right. Funny thing about of defensiveness is it becomes this cycle. So you take something somebody says a certain way and you don't like it. So you get defensive. You say something defensive. Well, in turn, the other person gets defensive and now you're convinced you're under attack. And so like it becomes this loop, what I call a self-fulfilling prophecy, that you say, hey, I thought you were mad at me, kind of thing. You convince yourself that you were mad at somebody. When you get defensive, it's like locking the door in your room and then being mad at somebody that they can't come in. Like, they should understand me. You still expect them to cater to your needs when you've totally blocked out all of theirs. And so it creates this wall that they should know. They should know how I feel. They should know that would upset me. But you care nothing about what's happening to the other person. Now, you can do certain things and techniques to prevent defensiveness from the other person. It's very hard to prevent defensiveness in yourself, aside from just dropping it, not taking things so personally.
Hard.
It's extremely hard. But most of the time, the yell that somebody's given you is truly just a bid for connection, because they're tight, they're tension, they're wanting you to hear. It's most of the time the yell is them wanting to feel like they are connected in some way. Now it depends what they're yelling.
Right.
Yeah, that could be very different. But the whole idea of defensiveness is that it is probably the number one conversation killer. If I were to tell you, you say something to me and I can tell I'm getting defensive at that. Now, when you hear that, does that make you sound like I know what I'm doing? Like I'm in control of myself, or I'm not?
When you say I'm getting defensive about that.
Yeah, if I say I can tell I'm getting defensive about that.
That makes me feel like you're weak.
Yeah.
When you say that.
Yeah.
But also, because I want to be like, I when you say that, like I'm getting defensive about that. I feel like if that's the goal here.
Well, it's because you're a bully. That's why.
But I'm coming at you. But also, it is. I keep going back to fighting analogies, but that's you creating distance from us. I can't hit you.
Yeah, you got it.
I can't. I'll swing again, and that's you saying like, oh, I feel my body doing X, Y, and Z, and so I'm getting out of striking distance. And as a guy that's trying to fire you up, that annoys me.
That's a great metaphor.
Right?
Yeah. I once had a trial where we were probably halfway through, and this guy on the other side was such a fireball. He just gets so heated about everything. And halfway through in a break, he goes, "Man, I really don't like you." I said, "Oh, that's okay." He goes, No, I like you. I mean, you're great. He goes, "The thing is," he goes, "you don't give me an enemy." He goes, "I can't get mad at you." He's like, "I can't." He goes, "Usually I try and make an opponent." So I've become, like, before trial, of course, personally, we're fine. But when it comes to courtroom,
yeah, you put the gloves on and get
exactly.
after it.
It's I'm the opponent, and so he wants to feel justified in saying mean things, and this other side, and they're the enemy. But I never gave him that because I didn't deserve it. I hadn't done anything rude. I was always continuing to be kind and just water off a duck's back kind of thing. And that's a main key. Is most people are just looking for an enemy. When it comes to conversation, they're wanting to find a way to be mad at you.
So I would say the next derivative then is actually, I don't know if they're looking for an enemy as much as they're looking to feel justified being in a soup of their own feelings.
Yeah.
And the way they can feel justified in feeling miserable is if it's your fault.
Perfect. You got it. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. They want to they feel a certain way, so they need to dump it on somebody. And you happen to be the living thing in the room.
All right, so that distills down. Can I tell you what the biggest thing I left with this book?
Yeah.
And disagree with me if you're like, that's not really what I meant. This may be one of the top 3 or 4 countercultural books I've ever read.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay,
Thanks,
here's
man.
what I mean about that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've read a book in the last 10 years, maybe Arthur Brooks, that I close the book and thought, Jefferson sees more capability in me than I do.
Oh, that's awesome.
And if I step back and look at the cloud hanging over our culture, it is, I've got fill-in-the-blank diagnostic. I've got fill-in-the-blank childhood trauma. I got fill-in-the-blank X, Y, or Z malady. And culture has convinced us over the last 25 years, you're irrevocably broken. Just go to the margin, we'll pat you on the head, and we'll take care of it.
Right.
Because you can't.
Yeah.
And as I was going through this, I would say, like, don't win the argument. I'm like, all right, man, but like, that means I have to just sit here and be cool.
Right.
And I know me well enough to know that means I got to still go see a counselor. And that means I got to get with my wife once a week and plan the week out so that I give her some peace, so that I can have some peace. That means that I got to exercise most of the time. Otherwise, I'm just kind of a ball of,
yeah.
And I kept hearing this, oh, you can.
Yeah.
You can. Or don't get defensive, or get up and walk away, or just don't answer.
Yeah.
Nobody in culture is saying that. They're telling you how to fight back.
Right.
How to slip the punch and swing. And so a statement I've been making over and over recently is, and it's just me, kind of a refrain that I'm repeating to myself, is I'm not solving for net worth. I'm not solving for the greatest sex. I'm solving for peace.
Yeah.
In my house. And for me and my family, it means I'm not going to owe anybody any money. Right?
Right.
If you can't take my house from me, then I'm going to be, right? If you can't take my car from me, I'm going to have peace.
Yes.
I'm going to solve for having a hard conversation with my wife way upstream so it doesn't turn into a nightmare. But nobody's telling us we can do that. And that's this whole stinking book, is you looking and being like, no, you can.
Yeah.
You can.
That's awesome. Man.
Do you sense the all right, let me ask you this. You work in the messy ugliness of people's lives on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
You wouldn't have a job if injustices didn't happen to other people.
Yes.
What gives you the belief in everybody? No, you can.
Yeah, because I've seen it. And that's a wonderful takeaway. That it's a really just blessing to hear that from you, John. Really. I've seen it. My experience in the courtroom, depositions, cross-examination, just the everyday trenches of conflict. I have seen people that could not go into a room without crying, shaking uncontrollably. I have seen what I've been able to do once I spend time with them and teach them how to communicate. By the time that they're on the deposition, when they're on the stand in the courtroom, you would never have even known it. And it's like, I know it. I know that they can, because I've seen the transition by just a few phrases of letting their breath be the first word.
That's a great story. I want to give it away.
Yeah.
But that woman that's a great story.
Yeah. And it's just little bitty things like that where I've been able to see them transform into everything about them simply by what they say next. And by putting them in a position to where, rather than trying to control other people, the magic happens when all they need to do is control themselves, and magical things happen. And it's a message that I don't believe that culture is really talking about. I never really thought about that until you just said that. I guess it is very counter-culture, very counterintuitive.
Well, you do a good job here of talking about, like, when your body goes to fight or flight, your body protects you from thinking through your next steps. It just wants you to react.
Exactly.
And so we have an entire culture that's electric with reaction.
Oh, they prefer it.
Yeah. And so if somebody like Jefferson says, no, I think you can. And I can lead with my breath, if I can exhale, if I can do the work to be confident when I sit down at a table, not have, gosh, dude, the most common thing I ask on my show is, does that make sense? Right? After I give this explanation, here's what you need to do next.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, are we still friends, right?
Yeah.
And like, just being able to say, hey, trust yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, maybe don't say anything. Right? That allows me to not live in a world of reactivity. And then maybe I can be the only thinking mind at my dinner table or with my family. And when that happens, you can smile.
Yeah. That was beautiful.
Granddad can say whatever and you can be like, all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's been good to see you.
Exactly. Hey, we're going to stay one night.
Yeah.
This Thanksgiving, we're going to stay one night.
Yeah.
And we'll have fun. We'll talk politics and talk how Pfizer, we'll do that. And then you'll have a great one, man. You know what I mean? And we laugh all the way home. Or, I'm just going to outsource my to everybody.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. So I guess,
but that's a challenge.
Yeah. So I guess thank you for believing in people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hope people read this and they exhale and say, okay, when I can't see belief in myself, I got a toolkit now that my dad didn't have, that my granddad didn't have,
that
my mom didn't have, but there's a guy who believes in me.
And I was able only to get it because there are people who believe in me.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how it goes.